welcome to Bloomberg Women Mean Business. Today I have with me trailblazing women who are not only empowering other women but also enabling them to take the next step and think big in their businesses. Let me introduce my guest to you today. I have with me, of course, Ms. Elizabeth Vasquez. She's the global CEO and founder of We Connect. Next to her, I have Ms. Jenny Grieser. She's a senior director of Women's Economic Empowerment, Walmart. And I have Nidhi Agarwal. She's founder CEO of KAARYAH Lifestyle Solutions. She's, of course, had various other avatars as well. We'll get into that in just a moment. Welcome to Bloomberg Women Mean Business. It's wonderful to have you here. I am fascinated by this idea of connecting women and doing it in a way that is a very organized platform. So I'm going to come to you first, Ms. Vasquez. How is We Connect really working and enabling women so quickly in so many different countries?
So thank you for your interest, and we're thrilled to be a part of this conversation. We Connect International is a global nonprofit that was created by very large corporations like Walmart that are specifically interested in sourcing from women-owned businesses. And so when these corporations came together, they have over $1 trillion in purchasing power, and very little of that is going to women-owned businesses. But women make the majority of purchasing decisions. So our job is to work with partners to find these amazing, innovative, women-owned businesses that want to grow their companies and create jobs and provide solutions. So we find them in countries like India. We certify that they are a women-owned company, and then we develop their capacity to compete and win business. Okay. So our members don't give them business because they're women, but they compete for the business.
Okay, so we're going to get into the actual process in just a minute, but Ms. Grieser, I want to come to you on the economic empowerment initiative that Walmart has taken, and also a little bit more really on how that's going to be working out in India itself.
Okay. Well, at Walmart, we wanted to really leverage our size and scale to help women globally grow economically. So in 2011, we did launch our Women's Economic Empowerment Initiative, which has 3 different pillars. And one was to source more product from women-owned businesses to bring them into our supply chain. In the U.S., we pledged that we would buy $20 billion from women-owned businesses in 5 years. And we said that we would double the amount of business we do from women-owned business in our international markets. And we also have a training part of the initiative, which we said we were going to train 1 million women, women in factories, which we've done here in India, women in agriculture, and women in retailing. Okay. So what I'm doing here in India is really looking at how do we bring more women into our supply chain, into our stores that we have here in the India market.
Okay, well that's of course the big question really,
yes.
Right? How do you identify those people? I want to come to Nidhi because she is a person who has worked in strategy, she's worked in marketing, she's sort of been through the whole rigmarole, and she went on to become an entrepreneur. Nidhi, you've also gone through funding, yes. Right? Which happens to be one of the big obstacles women seem to face more than others. Tell me a little bit more about your experience.
So, the one thing that struck out to me the most when we went out funding was that the variety with which you're met, the perspectives that come your way is very, very large. You could start with somebody saying, hey, you're a woman, you're in your 30s, how are you going to manage this? To somebody who completely understands that opportunity should not be granted on the basis of gender. Yeah. So from that point of view, I think the one thing that completely struck us and awed us was the variety of perspective with which we were met. And thankfully, there's a really large balance there. I mean, there are people on the spectrum end and this end of the spectrum too.
So when you talk about the balance there, what are you specifically talking about?
So I guess what I'm trying to also say is that finally we did get funded, right? We did get funded by people who believe that opportunities should not be given on the back of gender, right? We did get funded because they thought this was a good business model, not just because this was a woman entrepreneur trying to run a business, right?
Right.
So I'd say while there were skeptics, there were people who believed in this as well.
Okay, well that's good to know. In fact, I'm just going to come back to Elizabeth on this, which is that you have, of course, in the process of creating a platform like We Connect, had to deal with many, many challenges that women face. What are some of those big solutions that have come out recently? I don't want to talk about the problems, I think we know all of them, but let's talk about the big solutions that you've managed to look at.
I think the biggest solution is to make sure that the women-owned businesses are thinking big and that they see themselves as suppliers to large organizations. Could be corporations, could be governments, could be multilaterals. And to get them in the same room with actual buyers buyers from Walmart and other corporations that we work with to sort of demystify what it means to sell to a large organization, put a face on it, because buyers at the end are just people, right?
Right.
And the women entrepreneurs are just people. And when you bring them together, it's amazing what can happen.
But I mean, look at this. You know, we're sitting next to Jenny Grieser, and she's part of a very, very. I mean, Walmart. For some reason, I don't just think of a person, right? it's a huge organization. I need to really understand how you identify the women who will be associated with your initiative.
Okay, well, we definitely use WeConnect when we're working internationally, because that does help us, you know, find within certain categories where women-owned businesses are. And then we have other ways that we identify women-owned businesses through whether it's a job fair or supplier fair, industry types of fairs. You know, there are other ways that we get the word out that we are looking to do business with women-owned businesses.
Okay.
But I think what Elizabeth said too is that, you know, a lot of women are intimidated. You know, they think, well, Walmart, how can I do business with Walmart?
That's, yeah, that was
and
the
they
point,
don't
yeah.
realize that, you know, there really are a lot of processes that we've put into place over the last couple of years to make it easier for not just women, but really any small supplier to start to do business with Walmart.
We're taking a short break right here on Bloomberg Women Mean Business. We're going to be back in just a few moments. Welcome back to Bloomberg Women Mean Business. Nidhi, here's the scenario. You've got these two fabulous co-panelists with you right here. You are someone who's an entrepreneur.
Yes.
When it comes down to doing business with a big organization, what are the things that come to your mind?
Well, KAARYAH today does business with Flipkart, Amazon, Snapdeal, Myntra, Jabong, all of them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they are big organizations from the context of e-com in India.
Right.
I guess the one thing that one needs to realize is you're a company and they're a company. This is not just for us. This is also for them. I think this is a commercial transaction, and to understand that and to treat this like a formal business relationship is the only and the best way to approach this. So why should I think of myself as a woman-owned business?
Right.
This is a business. It's a company. I'm a registered company as much as they are. So
that's a very interesting interesting thing as well, because on one hand, of course, we have the empowerment and of course the social responsibility in a sense, and on the other hand, we're actually looking at a very interesting idea, which is the economic power of women. Tell me a little bit more about that, Elizabeth, because I know you've written about this. There's the purchasing power, and then there's of course the supplying power. So what can you share with us on that front?
So women have, to your point, significant purchasing power ourselves, $20 trillion that we influence. That's right.
Yeah.
But we spend, we're very unconscious, I think, of how powerful our purchasing power is and how little of it we actually spend on other women. So I think there's a huge opportunity if out of the $20 trillion we spent just 10% on other women, that'd be, you know, $2 billion instantly, or $2 trillion instantly spent on other women. So we have huge economic power as consumers, but as business owners, as job creators, if we get large contracts and we think about procurement and not just selling in my neighborhood, there's huge opportunity to scale.
Okay. And would you like to comment on that?
Well, I was just going to on the kind of women wanting to buy from women.
Yeah.
At Walmart, we did a customer insight study that showed that if women knew a product was from a woman-owned business, that she was more inclined to buy it. So based on that, we did develop a logo, a woman-owned logo, that we did this with WeConnect and WeBank, who is the third-party certifier in the U.S. And we gave the logo to WeBank and WeConnect so that they could really, any certified woman-owned business can use the logo, which I'm wearing.
Yes, I should in fact be wearing mine as well.
As on their product, so they can put it on their product, they can put it on their website, they can put it wherever, but it's a call out, and then the stores can get behind it and they can start to feature women-owned products within our stores, which is a way to kind of bring attention to the women-owned.
Nidhi, is this an idea that you think works well in India?
So I'd like to actually give a more analytical answer to this, right?
Yeah.
The answer here is really in understanding the consumer. If you're not able to understand the customer and the way she consumes the product, how will you ever construct the product for that customer?
Correct.
How will you ever, communicate in terms of marketing or even otherwise what the product is trying to do or solve? So I think my understanding of this is more analytical rather than, so it's more analytical to the extent that for me to understand the customer is the only way to give a product that satisfies an unmet need. And from that point of view, if I'm able to experience the product and critique the product just as my consumer would I not be making a better product, right? So that's the question I ask myself when I talk about women's Western wear. Right?
Yeah. And that, of course, was something you started because you realized that you really needed to have that, there was a big vacuum in that, right? But before that, you had you had this analytical and strategy side to your life. Tell me a little bit more about your time in consulting and a little bit more about the stages before you came to this place.
Sure. So before KAARYAH, I was the director of strategy at Honeywell India.
Yeah.
I helped them start their space and missiles business in India.
Yeah, which is a little different from what you're doing at the moment.
But I think the one consistent theme between KAARYAH and that is the fact that it's based on consumer analytics, right? It's all about starting new businesses, whether they were B2B or B2C. So it really did deal with understanding the market landscape and figuring out where the unmet need was and going after that, right? I think that's been consistent throughout my job at Bain, where I was a strategy consultant for B2C market entry cases, then to Honeywell, where I was a strategy consultant within the organization for new businesses, and then to KAARYAH.
So that's a very interesting trajectory that we're looking at.
I was just going to add that I really like your point of view that you're a woman in business, but first of all, you're a business. And I think that's really something that you have to have the right product, and to do you have to understand who your customer is, and it has to be something that fits within the assortment, because at the end of the day, it has to sell really for you to be able to.
And it shouldn't just be selling because it's owned by, it's made by a woman.
Right. Yeah, it has to be the right product.
So how do you identify that product? I know this is a very vast question for an organization as vast as Walmart, but there's obviously an instinct that goes into this. And that, when I'm saying instinct, I'm not talking about ignoring the customer solution intelligence. But what are some of those findings in terms of really what are the products that are working and the connection is coming in with women-owned businesses, Jenny?
Well, I think the buyers really have they're the, I would say, the people who really are understanding what their customers are wanting. And they get that from a lot of different places, market research, history, what's trending, what's new and innovative. They're always out looking for what's going to be something that can sell to their customer. So, at Walmart, it's all about the customer. We really want to be the advocate for the customer, really, if you're a buyer, and be putting into your assortment something that the customer is going to be wanting.
Okay. Elizabeth, just coming back to you on this. Like I said, WeConnect has, of course, been developing over stages, different countries. People behave differently in different countries, right? Purchasing cycles are different, budgets can be different, awareness is different. What are you sensing in a country like India right now?
I think the impact of technology and the knowledge consumers have of what they want, whether or not you offer it is a different issue, but their ability to imagine something and then want to go online to find it and thinking that someone is developing it. And I think that's the issue that even large corporations know they need to be more innovative, and they need to be able to turn around and anticipate the needs of their customers. The challenge is that if women are making the majority of the consumer purchasing decisions, but they're literally invisible as suppliers to large companies.
It's not a conscious decision, right?
No. The corporates aren't trying to keep women out.
Yeah.
Women are just, for various reasons, not supplying to large companies. So if those companies don't have the end user engaged as suppliers to help anticipate the needs of the market, they're missing out on huge opportunities.
We really find that women bring innovation and solutions. They're the ones who are, like as you say, knowing what's needed, or sometimes in their daily lives they're finding, wow, why don't we have this? And they're bringing these kind of innovative solutions to assortments, which is what's making them successful.
Just Didi, if you want to say something.